You don't find many evidence all over the world. Why do you find riding stable in the middle of the city? You know, which teaching all these young people to ride, which otherwise they wouldn't get the chance. Camilla Parker Bowles has fought a secret war for decades, not only for the throne, but also for popular acceptance. After years of gossip, palace maneuvering, and carefully controlled public relations, she was proclaimed queen alongside King Charles. It was intended to mark the conclusion of a long and difficult trip, but everything has changed. Camilla has apparently been deprived of her title, and in her place, a new figure has emerged. Not Kate, not Charles, but Princess Anne. And how did Camilla react? Let us simply say that Buckingham Palace's walls may never forget the sound. According to palace sources, it occurred quickly, almost too quickly. Royal insiders describe a series of closed-door sessions motivated by mounting dissatisfaction, a collapsing monarchy, and a desperate desire to re-establish public faith. In the middle of it all, Camilla's conduct, her dwindling popularity, and one reported inappropriate statement. But the fatal blow may have come from a very different source. Princess Anne, the no-nonsense royal who has always prioritized duty above drama. And now, for the first time in modern history, it appears Anne has discreetly taken on a job that was previously denied to her just because she was a woman. This wasn't only about succession. This was about legacy, leadership, and the late Princess Diana's enduring influence. Because no matter how many titles Camilla obtained, she was always compared to Diana by the public, and she never gained back the hearts that had already been given up. Her disagreements with Kate only widened the gap. And now, the palace has drawn a line. The shift is seismic. Princess Anne, long revered, but never truly empowered, has begun to take on more of the monarch's responsibilities. King Charles, who is apparently ill and stressed, has taken a step back from several responsibilities. Camilla, who used to accompany him to all of his engagements, has gone. And in her place stands a woman who has never desired glory or a throne, but suddenly finds herself at the heart of the crown. As we learn more about this event, the issue becomes not only how it happened, but why now and what it means for the monarchy's future. Because the royals have taught us that every public smile conceals a secret conflict. And this war, it's only the beginning. Camilla Parker Bowles' public re-entry into Charles' life elicited a constant response: opposition. To some, she would always be the other woman, the specter of the end of Charles and Diana's romance. No matter how many times the palace marketed her image, polished her titles, or softened her public appearances, the plain reality remained unchanged. Camilla was never genuinely embraced by the people. Even after Queen Elizabeth II gave her approval for Camilla to be proclaimed queen consort, there were obvious symptoms of discomfort. Polls continually revealed that the public remained suspicious, if not downright disapproving, while the official optics of Charles' coronation demonstrated unity. Public emotion conveyed a different narrative. Online forums, news comment sections, and worldwide headlines all ask the same question: why her? Camilla's fight for popularity was not restricted to the public. Royal aides and insiders have long lamented her cold behavior, particularly toward the younger generation of royals. Several reports claim that her relationship with Catherine, Princess of Wales, has always been difficult. One former staff member described Camilla as possessive over Charles and deeply territorial within the palace. Another said she never forgave Kate for becoming the face of grace and dignity that she herself could never convincingly project. There were also rumors that Camilla regularly battled with palace courtiers about procedure, attempting to impose herself in ways that many saw as tone-deaf. Unlike Diana, whose warmth made people feel seen and remembered, Camilla's interactions were frequently regarded as aloof, scripted, and disinterested. She wasn't incapable of smiling in front of a crowd. Rather, the grin rarely reached her eyes. Her popularity problem grew into a public relations catastrophe. In one prominent episode, Camilla was captured apparently making an offhand comment at a private charity event, implying that Diana's legacy has made my job 10 times harder. Despite the palace's efforts to minimize the comments, the damage had been done. Many saw it as indication that she still felt hatred against the lady, whose shoes she could never completely fill. Then there were the subtle but consistent attempts to boost her position. From invites to host high-profile banquets, to putting Camilla in the spotlight at crucial royal ceremonies, the palace machinery worked hard to make her seem regal. However, with each appearance, comparisons to Diana became louder. Her critics dubbed her the Queen of Convenience, a placeholder title won by default rather than widespread acclaim. Worse, she is said to have had cold dealings with the younger generation, particularly Prince George and Princess Charlotte. While Kate was seen affectionately interacting with them in public and behind palace gates, sources said Camilla frequently kept her distance. There were even allegations that the Wales children addressed her with formality rather than affection. A subtle yet effective reminder that titles do not earn love. Over time, the gap between perception and reality became hard to ignore. Camilla was not seen as a queen by the general population. She was an accessory to Charles, a source of controversy, and a symbol of an outmoded monarchy that frequently rewarded the wrong type of loyalty. And as King Charles began to have health issues and stepped back from public duties, it became brutally evident that Camilla was not the person the country needed at the helm. Camilla's coldness, dismissive attitudes, and Diana's long shadow all combined to reveal one irrefutable truth. She had the crown, but never the country. This increasing gap paved the way for what occurred next, because when a monarchy loses its relationship to the people, it turns inward. In this case, the institution's gaze was directed elsewhere. Someone who had never sought the crown, but had won the nation's esteem during decades of devoted service. Someone whose mere presence emphasized Camilla's precarious situation. That someone was Princess Anne. While Camilla fought for public favor and suffered under the weight of a crown she was never intended to wear, Princess Anne waited calmly in the wings, unshaken, unimpressed, and unwaveringly devoted. For years, she had been the backbone of the royal family's working obligations, silently fulfilling more public engagements than any other royal year after year without pomp or ceremony. However, she was never genuinely in line for the throne until now. According to palace insiders, the shift began quietly and almost invisibly. King Charles's worsening health, long rumored in private circles, meant fewer appearances, fewer engagements, and an increasing need for someone to step in and take command. While many expected Prince William to take on greater responsibility, Princess Anne allegedly began addressing some of the crown's most sensitive issues: diplomacy with Commonwealth leaders, discreet military briefings, and internal palace crises. Anne became the monarchy's unofficial steward. What made her ascension even more remarkable was the sharp contrast to Camilla's attitude. Whereas Camilla appeared to demand reverence, Anne merely earned it. She never sought recognition or sympathy from the public. In truth, she had spent decades avoiding the spotlight, letting her deeds speak for themselves rather than her appearances. When the late Queen Elizabeth II dubbed her daughter as the hardest-working royal, it wasn't simply a compliment, it was a prophecy. Behind the scenes, there is a growing assumption that Queen Elizabeth has always regarded Anne as the family's moral core. One senior assistant said that the Queen once said, "If Anne had been born a man, the crown would have fit perfectly." And today, as fissures in the royal foundation grow, it appears that the institution is discreetly repairing history's blunder. International leaders, many of whom had long-standing contacts with the Queen, but now fear Charles's ideas, allegedly welcomed Anne's growing prominence. At a recent Commonwealth summit, Anne, not Camilla, headed the UK delegation. Her calm authority, thorough comprehension of constitutional issues, and no-nonsense approach drew great praise. Diplomats even said her presence felt like the old monarchy, stable, grounded, and above scandal. Staff apparently swapped sides even within the royal walls. Camilla always acted like royalty, one insider claimed, but Anne behaves like a leader. It became common knowledge that when things needed to be done, or when an international blunder needed to be cleaned up right away, Anne was the one to contact. And while Charles struggled with his image and Camilla faded from public view, Anne gained what Camilla never had: popular trust. Rumors started to spread about this time. Was Anne being prepared for something more official? Was she becoming a temporary sovereign, if not in name, then in function? The palace, true to tradition, provided little clarity, but the signals were apparent. Royal observers saw Anne's growing involvement in state affairs, her closeness to senior advisors, her unexpected emergence as a decision-maker. Perhaps most dramatically, Anne was pictured in recent weeks wearing her late mother's favorite brooch, an item that had never been worn publicly since the Queen's death. The message was subtle, yet obvious. She was no longer simply the Princess Royal. She was something more, a stabilizer, a ruler in all except title. In a household where appearances count, Anne's ascension was subtle, controlled, and precisely timed. She did not have to seize Camilla's place by force. The institution and the nation simply stopped looking at Camilla and began looking at Anne. And Camilla's unsaid change may have been more damaging than a formal demotion, because she had not only lost the crown's favor, she had been supplanted without saying a thing. Camilla's destiny was sealed not on a public stage or during a royal engagement, but rather during a private, invite-only reception in one of Clarence House's smaller drawing rooms. The event was planned as a leisurely evening with foreign dignitaries and trustworthy members of the royal circle, with the goal of being calm, respectable, and free of controversy. But what transpired behind closed doors set off a chain reaction that would rock the monarchy to its foundation. According to many insider sources, after a brief but intense argument, Camilla made a throwaway comment that startled the audience into stillness. As the conversation turned to Diana's legacy and the rising adoration for Kate Middleton among the younger generation, Camilla allegedly said, "The crown was never meant for broken fairy tales or picture-perfect wives. It was meant for those who actually endured." While ambiguous, the remark was widely taken as a veiled assault on both Diana and Kate in one sentence. One witness characterized the reaction as icy, while another stated that even Prince Charles, who was seated close, tensed immediately. However, the harm was not only personal, it was institutional. Within 48 hours, knowledge of the comment had spread beyond the confines of Clarence House. The press did not have the audio, but they did not require it. The outcry grew like wildfire. The outcry was immediate and nasty. Hashtags such as "Not My Queen" and "Use Justice for Diana" trended for days. Social media burst with old recordings of Diana's interviews juxtaposed against contemporary photos of Kate smoothly executing her duties, creating a striking emotional contrast. Editorials questioned Camilla's moral authority, and internet surveys revealed a record-low popularity rating for the Queen Consort. The strongest reaction came from within the family. Prince William was allegedly outraged. Insiders alleged he approached his father in private and demanded repercussions. "She mocked my mother and insulted my wife," he allegedly said. "If you won't act, I will." Charles, torn between devotion to his wife and dread of losing his kid, allegedly descended into silent misery. One royal assistant characterized Charles as withdrawn, unsure, almost defeated. He had spent years attempting to restore Camilla's image, and now it had all crumbled in a single night. The internal fracture, however, was far greater than the public consequences. William had set a boundary, and for the first time in years, Charles lacked the courage or popular support to protect his queen. Behind the palace doors, serious debates began. Senior advisers, already concerned about Camilla's growing unpopularity, regarded her as a problem. And with Princess Anne already filling the royal void left by Charles's diminished appearances, the alternative was obvious and increasingly alluring. It wasn't long before silent actions were made. The schedules were altered. Camilla's name has been deleted from numerous future state occasions. Appearances were postponed with no reason. Whispers of a health-related retreat circulated in the press, but no formal pronouncements were issued. What followed was Princess Anne, who was now front and center, shaking hands, delivering speeches, and accepting calls that had previously been reserved for the queen consort. Camilla's error wasn't a fluke. It served as a reminder that the monarchy no longer tolerated arrogance, bitterness, or emotional detachment. And while the institution is reluctant to respond, it never forgets who brought the storm to its doorstep. This was when the palace ceased protecting Camilla. And in a family that values loyalty and appearance, this meant only one thing: the collapse had begun. The downfall of a royal person is rarely publicized. There is no announcement or spectacular clash in the House of Windsor. Instead, it sweeps through ancient hallways like a frigid breeze, discreetly rearranging paintings and removing privileges until the person who remains is unrecognizable. That's how Queen Camilla lost all she'd worked so hard for over decades. Following the Clarence House reception disaster, the walls began to close in. Initially, it was subtle. Camilla's scheduled appearances were frequently shifted, often at the last minute, to Princess Anne or Prince Edward. When pressed for an answer, palace officials claimed health fatigue, a courteous euphemism the royals frequently deploy when controversy makes telling the truth too costly. But insiders knew better. This was not a break. This was exile. In the days that followed, the queen consort's name was secretly removed from internal planning papers. She was no longer scheduled to join Charles to numerous high-profile Commonwealth summits. Worse, she was allegedly denied an audience with visiting Scandinavian nobility, a rendezvous she had long anticipated. According to a royal official, Camilla's response behind the scenes was nothing short of explosive. She yelled at Charles, "You're letting her take it from me." The she, everyone presumed, was Anne. But Charles, feeble and troubled, allegedly said nothing. Trapped between a furious wife and a furious son, the king did what monarchs have always done in times of personal crisis. He prioritized the crown above emotion. That meant sacrificing Camilla for the sake of institutional stability. Then came the final blow. In an emergency conference called by senior royal advisers, a severe yet optically neutral remedy was agreed upon. Camilla's function would be reduced without public humiliation. Camilla was not mentioned by name in the palace's vague statement about redistributing ceremonial duties among senior royals to reflect the king's reduced engagements. It did not have to. What followed was a clear series of events. The term queen consort was discreetly removed from official papers and replaced with HRH, the Duchess of Cornwall, in future ceremonial briefs. Royal reporters noticed right away. Even BBC royal journalists were hesitant to remark, uncertain if it was a formatting error or a seismic change. However, the palace did not correct it, and the stillness spoke everything. Camilla, who was once a mainstay beside Charles, has completely gone from public view. No balcony waves. There are no hospital visits. There are no foundation events. According to royal sources, she was rarely seen within Buckingham Palace. One staff member commented, "She went from queen to ghost in a week." Meanwhile, the royal family flocked to support Anne in a symbolic step. Princess Anne has been selected as the king's official delegate at a forthcoming G7-related state event, a position typically held by the sovereign or spouse. That made it clear. Anne was not simply filling in. She was moving up. Camilla was humiliated since no one defended her. Kate stayed mute. William never looked back. Even Princess Eugenie and Beatrice, who were previously neutral, apparently supported Anne's new role. The family had changed. Camilla, after all of her planning, struggle, and reinvention, was simply left behind. In private, several aides claim she blames everyone. Charles has a weakness. William was furious. Kate is known for her popularity. Anne is known for her strength. Others argue that the reality was always simpler. Camilla donned a crown that was never intended for her, and the monarchy eventually fixed the error. While the kingdom was in upheaval within the royal walls, one woman remained unshaken. Catherine, Princess of Wales, did not speak out. She did not issue comments, demand attention, or seek vengeance. Instead, she did what she usually does. She ascended softly, gracefully, and without fanfare. In doing so, she became precisely what the people desired, a queen in all but name. As Camilla retreated off the royal stage and Princess Anne assumed the duties of a queen, the attention inevitably fell on Kate. Instead of grasping it, she walked into it without hesitation. She began participating at events that were formerly Camilla's domain, such as charity banquets, youth projects, and Commonwealth goodwill activities. However, it was more than simply presence, it was also about tone. Kate's every gesture and phrase appeared to contrast sharply with Camilla's rigid, protective demeanor. Kate was pictured soothing a terrified teenager during a hospital opening. The princess tenderly caressed the kid, who was plainly overwhelmed by the cameras, and knelt down to murmur something that made her smile. The scene became viral within hours, not because it was showy, but because it was authentic. One headline said, "A queen who leads with kindness." Even beyond royal walls, there was a noticeable change in atmosphere. During the recent weeks of royal upheaval, staff allegedly referred to her as the calming force. With Charles unwell, Camilla sidelined, and tensions rising, Kate became the emotional anchor for not just her husband, but the monarchy as a whole. It was also a watershed moment for Princess Anne, who had been stern, duty-bound, and cautious of Kate's contemporary appeal. According to sources, Anne began to display open admiration for Kate, including consulting her secretly on impending public initiatives. But probably the most meaningful moment occurred when Kate paid a private visit to Kensington Palace's sunken garden, which is dedicated to the late Princess Diana. She did not invite the press. There were no camera teams, but a leaked photo, taken carefully from behind, showed her alone, hands folded, standing in front of Diana's statue. The public saw it as more than just an homage. It was a reclamation. Diana's daughter-in-law, whom she had never met, was carrying on her legacy with respect rather than spectacle. And now, as the monarchy repositions itself following Camilla's expulsion, Kate's image is no longer that of a princess or a supporting spouse, but of a future queen who has already begun to lead. In recent weeks, William, who has always been protective, has been increasingly conspicuous at her side. Their public acts of solidarity, although never theatrical, felt planned. Insiders believe William regards Kate's appearance as a fulfillment of his mother's vow, that in a family plagued by deception and turmoil, Kate symbolizes the one constant, love without motive. There's a reason why people sing her name during walkabouts. Why do youngsters run to her and international leaders lean in a little closer when she speaks? It's not simply her beauty, her style, or her status. It is her silent strength, a form of royalty that does not require declaration. It is already felt. And as the dust settles, it's becoming evident that while Anne may keep the monarchy stable and Charles officially retains the throne, Kate has the future. Not simply as the next queen, but as the throbbing heart of a family seeking to reconnect with its people. What began as a whisper behind royal walls has now altered the core of the monarchy. Camilla, who was controversially anointed queen consort, has been quietly stripped of her title and banished from the royal spotlight. The crown she battled so hard to wear is now in symbolic limbo, not passed on ceremoniously, but restored by quiet resolve and silent consensus. The message is clear: the monarchy is changing, and not in the way anyone anticipated. In her place, two women have risen, driven by ethics rather than ambition. Princess Anne, the epitome of responsibility, now directs the royal machine with calm hands. She has become the unofficial monarch, in function, if not entitled, a living embodiment of her mother's fortitude and determination. Her presence compels respect, not because she demands it, but because she deserves it. And then there's Kate, the people's queen in every meaning of the term. Her warmth, moderation, and easy elegance are all reminiscent of the late Princess Diana's legacy, revived in a new era. King Charles, albeit increasingly absent, remains the ruler on paper. But the crown's true authority now rests with the women the nation trusts. Anne for stability, and Kate for the future. And what about Camilla? Her absence is as obvious as her fall. She was once hailed as a queen of endurance, but she is now a symbol of everything the people despise about their monarchy: separation, animosity, and scandal. This isn't simply a personal failure. It represents a redefining of authority inside one of the world's oldest organizations. A peaceful revolution that did not need parliament, headlines, or revolt, just a transformation in people's hearts, ideals, and perceptions of who the crown represents. Perhaps Diana's ghost is watching everything unfold from beyond the velvet curtains and glittering thrones. Her sons are separated, her legacy is maintained, and the monarchy is once again altered by the women it has misjudged. A new royal order has started. This time it wears a new type of crown,